Gagawin lang, hindi marinig ni ni Padua.
Ha?
Hindi marinig ni Padua.
Weh?
Mm.
Okay.
Tingnan natin.
Karido ga bore. Takuyo. Elevator?
Try nga muna natin yung part mo lang. Try muna natin.
Hmm. Some part yung good
Sige.
morning.
Narinig naman ako, di ba?
Hmm?
Yung ano lang, yung ano yun, oh, yung good morning. Yung mga part mo lang, basahin muna natin. Ano, goods ka? Part mo lang muna.
Hindi lang.
Sige. Oh, so, umpisahin natin good morning, everyone. I am Marvin Erum, and thank you again for tuning in here on the Morning Coffee. As many of you might know that the war on Russia and Ukraine is expanding exponentially. Many people want to know whether it's going to stop or not. And today we've gathered the questions of the people who are either terrified or worried about the war. We will answer this question after this short break. Then yun. Tapos break na natin ito.
If you are
Okay, go.
given the chance to ask one question for the presidential aspirants, what is it?
My question will be, are you willing to provide everything this country needs?
Will you deepen our bonds with other countries so that we have allied forces in case something bad will happen?
What is your next goal after you've become the President of the Philippines?
If a war breaks down in our country, what would you do?
How will we resolve all of our nation's problems?
Do you have what it takes to become the next president?
And we are back. As I said earlier, the war between Russia and Ukraine are expanding exponentially. There are, the, there are questions that many of the netizens of the both countries wants to be answered. So today, we are joined with Mr. Charles Nifas and Mr. Zairus Padua.
Good morning and thank you for having me again on the Doc Show.
Good morning. I'm glad that you guys invited me here again. Although this is our last talk show.
Yes, so guys, how's life been going for the both of you?
It's been going
I'm
pretty
doing
good.
pretty good. Wait. Pala. Nandito na pala si Padua.
Sige lang, sige lang. Mr. Padua, it's been a while since you've joined our last talk show. How are you?
Well, after the last talk show, I've encountered problems which I had to deal with for the past few weeks. So, so, so I didn't get to join the last talk show, but I'm fine now.
Well, Mr. Padua, I didn't know you were having some trouble. I hope you're doing fine, better now.
Yes, I'm doing better now.
That's good to hear. I also wish for Mr. Padua to be good and we should able to make it at the end of this talk show. So before we start this talk show, I want to make something clear. This will be separated by sides where Mr. Nifas will be taking part of the Ukraine and Mr. Padua will be taking part of Russia. So are you guys ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, okay. We will start with the talk show with a question for Mr. Nifas. So, do you think that when the war happened, Ukraine was scared against Russia just because Russia is a big country, you know?
I think that due to the fact that even Ukraine president staying and join the front line just to defend their country, uh, their dependents.
Yes, I also think that Ukraine was never actually intimidated. Rather, it's the complete opposite. And even the president of the Ukraine took the front lines. So thank you, Mr. Nivas. For Mr. Padua, this question will be taking part for the Russia. For Russia, do you think that the war will end just by simply talking and communicating with the other country?
Yes, but I think they also need to make a move to end this war because words are just words. Nothing will happen to them. Or just talking and communicating with each other. They need to make a deal and implement something from it is being discussed. And it depends on them how will they end this war peacefully. But like what I said earlier, they also need to make a move because that is important. If I were to be asked, they don't need to go further and end up in a war. Imagine that if President Vladimir Putin of Russia did not stop the war and still fighting right now with Ukraine, it can have a big impact to many countries, including us here in the Philippines. Because as far as I know, Russia is one of the most powerful countries, and if the war is still going on right now, the world may freak out by declaring a World War III. So I guess it is good for us that they ended up talking and negotiating with each other.
Yes, I agree with the statement of Mr. Padua because with fair negotiations and fair talks, this can end very soon. So, yes, again for Mr. Padua, the war in Ukraine looks like to be one that Russian President Vladimir Putin cannot win on his preferred terms. So, and it is also one that he cannot afford to lose. So, if not, how will the war end?
Um, I think it is better to make a deal and implement something that can help them to end this war peacefully. I am not sure what President Vladimir Putin's plan, but I think he also wants to end this war peacefully. And for me, it is better for the Ukraine to negotiate with Russia as soon as possible because it is obvious for us that Ukraine has no much and has no enough power to fight Russia. I'm sorry, but this is what I see and observe when I'm watching the news about these issues. And that is only my opinion. I hope that Ukraine will not take this any longer, and I also believe that Ukraine will not let World War III happen.
Thank you, Mr. Padua. Well, for my opinion on how I think the war will end is completely on the president's hand. If they ever agreed on peace, then it should be good, but until then, it really depends on their decisions. So, thank you, Mr. Padua. And now let's go back to the side of Ukraine. Mr. Nifas, when the war happened there, why do you think that no one helped Ukraine against Russia?
The question itself is fluid. I mean, do you really think no one helped Ukraine? Sorry to burst your bubble, but some article or news that circulated online, NATO and other states have been helping Ukraine ever since the war occurred between those two nations, providing support in ammunition, medical supplies, and other vital military equipments necessary to help Ukraine fled from its country.
Wow, great answer, Mr. Nifas. That was actually a trick question.
Oh, really? Thank God I'm paying attention.
Yes, so it really seems that you are really keeping up with the happenings around the globe. So then, for Mr. Padua, if USA is allied with Russia, does that mean that they will be also part of the war?
Yes, of course. USA can join as long as the Russia asks them to help. Because if you're allied with the country, you are responsible to help them if they are in trouble. But what I know is when the other country join in a war to help its ally, there is always a chance that the country that they are fighting with will also ask for help to their own
Gagawin di
allied
pala.
country. And when that happens, it is possible that the World War III will begin because the war would not only about two countries. It is allied by allied, so many countries will join, and It is not possible that they will not declare World War III when that is happened.
Well, thank you, Mr. Padua. For me, it depends on their choice, and if they only want to provide for their country, then there will be less trouble. But if they want to join the war and send troops of their own, I can only imagine what the allied nations of Ukraine will do. So, back to the part of Ukraine, Mr. Nifas. If you are on the place of the president of Ukraine, what would you do?
I think I would do the same way the president of Ukraine did and defend his own country because I cannot sleep thinking that I'm sitting here peacefully while fellow countrymen are fighting. Furthermore, if I'm a president of Ukraine, there would be an assassination attempt of my head and family. If the opportunity presents itself, so even if I evacuate in safety, there would be always risk involved, including joining the front line.
I totally agree on Mr. Nifas' statement. It is so terrifying to see that there is a bounty on your head, so you have no other choice to fight for your own country. Well, thank you for your great answers, and we'll be right back after this short break.
If you are given the chance to ask one question for the presidential aspirants, what is it?
My question will be, are you willing to provide everything this country needs?
Will you deepen our bonds with other countries so that we have allied forces in case something bad will happen?
What is your next goal after you've become the President of the Philippines?
If a war breaks down in our country, what would you do?
How will you resolve all of our nation's problems?
Do you have what it takes to become the next president?
And we are back, and this question will be for the both of you, Mr. Padua and Mr. Nifas. If you are both the president of the said nations, and one of you made a move that harmed the other nation, what will be your response?
In that situation, I think I don't have any choice but to fight back because as the president of the country, my job is to protect my people, and no one wants to harm people and make a lot of damages, especially when it happens to my own country or nation. This war can be solved through negotiating and not in a violent way, so they don't need to declare a war and harm my people. But if they keep fighting us, I will fight back even though my country has no much for the said nation. I will fight back just to serve my own country, but if fighting back will be the cause of the World War III happen, I think the last option that I can do is to surrender. Because even though I don't want to lose, I don't also want us to be the reason of the World War III happen.
Thank you, Mr. Padua. What about you, Mr. Nifas?
Uh, Naturally, I would first try to have peace talk with the other nation and try to come up with a mutual agreement. If we failed to negotiate the proper and fair term, then it's inevitable that we would have to point knives to each other's throat. Uh, it's it is best to defend my country's safety and interest. That includes talking and ad- advantage if it's possible.
I agree with the both of you. Doing fair negotiation will most certainly bring peace on both countries. That was amazing, you two. You two both really are keeping up with the latest updates, especially the war between Russia and Ukraine.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's our trend topic all around the globe after all, and so it's the only natural for us to know about it.
How about you, Mr. Padua?
I'm also well aware about it. I mean, everyone knows about this.
Yeah, I totally agree with the both of you. Well, that will be it for the talk show, guys. I hope you enjoyed your stay.
Yep, I enjoyed it.
Same goes here.
Wonderful. I'd like to thank you again, Mr. Charles Nipas and Mr. Zairus Padua. And to our viewers, thank you for tuning in today here on the Morning Coffee.